Traditional B2B prospecting pipelines operate on a flawed mathematical assumption that sheer volume compensates for a lack of behavioral evidence. By relying on generic demographic lists, organizations force their most expensive asset, human salespeople, into the highly inefficient position of trying to manufacture commercial interest out of thin air. As we can see in this model, the standard approach requires thousands of unverified records to be poured into the top of a wide funnel. But without a specific reason to engage, that massive data simply leaks out the sides or clogs at the bottom, entirely dependent on a sales rep to process the noise. The operational consequence is severe. It burns through human capital by forcing experts to spend the majority of their time on dead-end discovery calls, rather than designing actual freight solutions. To fix this, we have to rebuild the architecture. We replace the wide, leaky funnel with a narrow, multi-stage pipeline designed to distill thousands of data points into a handful of highly qualified nodes. This is the GRG Prospecting Intelligence System. It represents a deliberate operational shift. Instead of maximizing the number of unverified leads, the system ruthlessly minimizes them, ensuring only fully validated prospects reach a human desk. High-efficiency sales operations do not need more leads. They require fewer prospects backed by hard behavioral evidence, tested through a zero-friction mechanism. The central challenge in building this engine is data conversion. We have to take a massive, exceptionally noisy dataset and compress it into a highly concentrated, actionable sales pipeline. Raw data on its own is turbulent and largely unusable. An ocean of disorganized names and locations tells you nothing about who actually controls a supply chain right now. Over the next few minutes, we will watch the GRG system get built node by node, transforming this raw information into an automated execution engine. We treat this prospecting workflow strictly as a deterministic engineering problem. We are building a logical system, not relying on the traditional art of the sales pitch. To achieve this, the system enforces a strict division of labor. Artificial intelligence handles the heavy lifting of large-scale research and data organization, while human operators handle relationship strategy and final validation. AI acts as a research engine, processing public records at speeds a human never could. But human expertise remains the definitive gatekeeper, controlling exactly who we contact and what message we send. The bedrock of this system is historical freight intelligence. Our pilot test began with a master file containing roughly 30,000 historical shipment records. In this sorting model, that massive data pool is systematically divided into 4 distinct target buckets based on origin and control. A systemic caveat exists. A historical shipment proves freight moved, but not that the business still operates, buys from the mainland, or controls transportation. For this initial build, we isolate the Hawaii controlled group as our primary test case. The segmentation logic prioritizes this group because the Hawaii customer historically controlled the freight at the destination. A mainland to Hawaii buyer directly feels the impact of every freight cost, transit delay, and vendor shipping decision. They are uniquely exposed to the realities of ocean logistics. By selecting this specific segment, we target the group with the strongest potential economic motivation to engage transparently with a new shipping solution. Once we have our target segment, we move to the second node in the pipeline, Codex. We deploy Codex strictly as an intelligence and research agent, not an autonomous salesperson. Looking at this qualification matrix, Codex applies an explicit formula to every record: historical freight, plus an active current business, plus evidence of a mainland supplier, physical products, and receiving capabilities, equals a qualified candidate. Each variable is carefully chosen. We require proof of freight-scale physical products and active replenishment to ensure the lane still exists, and credible mainland origin supply evidence so we aren't guessing about their inventory. Codex executes this by rapidly scraping public domains, business registries, and supplier lists to validate active mainland supply chains without human intervention. In practice, we feed Codex hundreds of unverified historical names from our test batch and let it filter the noise. In our first batch, Codex reduced hundreds of records to just a few highly qualified candidates, like commercial shelving, where it verified a current relationship with mainland equipment manufacturers. The objective is precise: generating explainable, public evidence for a small handful of strong accounts is far more valuable than generating hundreds of weak, unverified leads. With the company validated, the system encounters its next major hurdle: identifying the specific operational point of contact, or POC, who actually controls the transportation routing. Take Alpha Electric Supply. Codex verified their continuous inventory replenishment, but could not publicly verify that current individual in charge of purchasing or receiving. The system immediately flags the record. This demonstrates a strict rule of our contact resolution. Codex is programmed to admit what it does not know. It flags unresolved records rather than hallucinating a name or guessing a generic executive title. This triggers the human review checkpoint. A human operator steps in to investigate, leverage relationships, or make a direct phone call to resolve missing intelligence. Because this validation phase is critical, the first outbound communication is kept entirely manual. This human gate preserves relationship integrity and ensures zero errors before we ever engage the prospect. Once the contact is resolved, we initiate customer outreach using what we call the locked message. AI is highly effective at research, but it is strictly prohibited from rewriting or optimizing this specific email. The internal intelligence must not leak into the external communication. The locked message relies on deliberate psychology. We explicitly omit traditional sales tactics. We do not ask for a meeting, an invoice, or their current freight price. Instead, we leave them with a clean, low-friction framework. By omitting any demand that they replace their current provider, we lower the barrier to entry. We make the email entirely safe to forward to the employee handling the actual freight. The single positive request we make is for the raw profile of one recent or upcoming shipment, just the zip codes, weight, and dimensions. The entire proposition boils down to one phrase: don't trust us, test us. We put the full burden of proof onto our own operational capabilities. By removing standard sales friction and unnecessary commitments, every interaction is converted from a stressful negotiation into a pure, risk-free data collection event. When a prospect replies with that shipment profile, the data leaves the sales inbox and feeds directly into our operational engine. We load the profile into the Hawaii Rater. This specialty market decision platform integrates variables far beyond basic freight calculation. The engine processes the data with absolute precision. It instantly combines NMFC classification, density validation, inland components, and consolidator pricing tables into a single workflow. Within moments, this system generates a highly defensible door-to-door routing solution, complete with estimated sailing schedules and total landed cost. The customer receives this executable comparison and can privately measure it against what they actually paid their incumbent provider. This immediate operational output shifts the focus to hard, actionable freight evidence, providing a concrete basis for evaluation. When we step back and look at the entire constructed architecture, we see a complete end-to-end pipeline. This pipeline map shows historical intelligence feeding into Codex validation, moving through POC resolution and human review, triggering locked outreach, and concluding with a definitive rater comparison. The architecture forms a closed loop, ending in a customer decision fork: test or not this one. Every outcome produces structured learning data for the next batch. A decline provides just as much intelligence as a test shipment. A decline explicitly based on a strong current provider relationship triggers an automatic conversion to attract backup opportunity, ready for the moment their incumbent misses a pickup or drops capacity. The scalable commercial potential here is vast. The core architecture remains identical whether we are targeting Hawaii shippers, national 3PLs, or California direct shippers. We simply swap the initial target profile and the pricing engine. The guiding design principle of this pipeline is that technology should never seek to replace true transportation expertise with blind automation. The ultimate value of the GRG Prospecting Intelligence System is how it packages data. It turns historical noise into evidence, so human operators can make faster, highly defensible commercial decisions.